Okay, let's dive in. Think about this for a second. Imagine you're, I don't know, rummaging through old family stuff, maybe up in an attic,
Yeah.
right? You find this old dusty box, open it up, and there's a photograph.
Mm-hmm.
And you recognize the people, they're your family, but
Mm-hmm.
there's also this feeling like you don't know the whole story. There's a distance there.
Right. That sense of something familiar yet incomplete.
Exactly. That feeling, that sort of hidden connection, that's really what we're digging into today. These powerful, often invisible ways our family history um, shapes who we turn out to be.
It's pretty fascinating how our minds work, isn't it? How we organize things. In psychology, especially,
Yeah.
Gestalt theory, we talk a lot about figure and ground.
Fearing ground.
Yeah.
Right.
So what you focus on, that's the figure. It stands out. Everything else is the ground, the background. But what happens when really important parts of that background, maybe unspoken family stories or experiences people didn't acknowledge, what if those stay hidden? Well, they can still deeply affect how we see the world, how we move through it, often completely without us realizing it.
That reminds me of someone I knew, Anna, an architect. And she had this real, almost obsessive pull towards designing incredibly complex buildings, like labyrinths. It was her thing.
Interesting.
And then, years down the line, she just happens to find out her great-grandfather, way back in Europe, was actually known for designing these really elaborate garden mazes in the 19th century.
Wow. Not just a coincidence then.
It really didn't feel like it. It felt like something deeper was going on.
Precisely. You could think of it as a kind of underground stream of influence, couldn't you? That old family inclination towards complex spaces was sort of subtly guiding her own creativity.
Yeah, guiding her work, but she had no idea where it came from.
Exactly. It was there, a constant presence, but just outside her conscious view. And that really highlights a key idea, I think. We're often driven by legacies we don't even know we carry.
And it's not just the big stuff like careers, is it?
Yeah.
It must be in the smaller things too, like you called them shadow imprints before. These inherited ways we act or react emotionally, even tiny little mannerisms that seem to come from nowhere.
Oh, absolutely. Those knee-jerk reactions, the way you hold yourself, the tone of voice sometimes, and how they get passed on. Well, it's not always neat and tidy, is it?
Right.
They can skip a generation, pop up unexpectedly later. It's almost like a recurring musical theme in a family song. It gets reinterpreted, maybe changes a bit with each generation, but that underlying melody, it's still there.
So we're kind of acting out these old scripts without knowing we're doing it.
In many ways, yes. These subtle influences shape our basic way of seeing things. What jumps out at us, what becomes the figure, and what just fades into the background of our awareness.
Which is so interesting because, we really like to think we're fully in control, making logical choices based on what's happening right now.
Right, the rational mind.
Yeah. But it sounds like these hidden family legacies are constantly, whispering suggestions, nudging us one way or another.
That's a good way to put it. Think about someone who, say, keeps ending up in relationships that feel strangely similar to their parents' unresolved conflicts. Or the person who maybe repeatedly undermines their own success, and later you see it echoes a parent's own unfulfilled dreams or fears. These aren't always conscious choices in the moment. Often it's the playing out of these deeply embedded, unconscious patterns.
This makes me think about that idea of unfinished business in families, not just our own personal stuff, but the unresolved arguments, the feelings never expressed, the stories never told from way back. It's like they create these, what did you call them? Perceptual blind spots?
Yes, exactly. Gaps in how we see and understand what's right in front of us. Like trying to read a book, but key pages are missing. It affects how you understand the whole narrative, doesn't it? And these aren't just old psychological wounds locked in the past. They actually create blind spots in our ability to fully perceive and interact with our present reality. It's a bit like the concept of dark matter in physics.
Okay.
You can't see it directly, but it has this huge gravitational pull on everything around it. It affects how things move, how galaxies form. Unresolved ancestral stuff can be like that unseen forces distorting our present-day perceptions.
We heard about a case, a lawyer, Marcus. He had these really intense, almost over-the-top reactions whenever he dealt with authority figures. It baffled him for ages.
Right, and the puzzle piece only clicked into place when this suppressed family story finally came out.
About his great-uncle.
Yes, his great-uncle, who had apparently challenged the powers that be during wartime. A story that was kept quiet, probably seen as too risky or controversial back then. But the energy of that story, that theme of pushing back against authority, it hadn't disappeared. It persisted, showing up generations later in Marcus's own strong reactions. The silent story became this powerful background force, specifically skewing how he perceived anyone in a position of power.
So the key thing there is that what isn't said, what's omitted, can be just as powerful, maybe even more so.
Precisely. Those omissions can become potent, unconscious drivers of our current feelings and
It
behaviors.
feels like such a contradiction in our modern world, though. We're
Hmm.
so focused on the individual,
Hmm.
self-made, pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. This idea that these invisible family forces are shaping us feels almost counterintuitive.
It really does clash with the prevailing narrative, doesn't it? We celebrate individual agency, self-determination. But interestingly, you can see a kind of parallel if you look at, say, technology.
How so?
Well, think about how one generation's interaction with early computers or the internet fundamentally shapes the next generation's reality. They become digital natives, right? Their whole way of processing information is different.
Yeah, it's built on what came before.
Exactly. Each layer builds on the last, creating this sort of, you could almost call it a technological unconscious. And in a similar way, our psychological inheritance evolves. It's passed down generation by generation, subtly but profoundly influencing how we perceive and organize our world.
Okay, so this brings us to the big question, really. Are we just stuck repeating these family patterns? Are we puppets pulled by ancestral strings? Or is there some agency here? Can we actually choose?
I think the real action happens right at that intersection point, that fertile ground where our conscious awareness meets these unconscious influences.
Okay.
It's about developing the ability to see how the background is shaping the foreground in our own lives. And then crucially, consciously choosing how we want to organize that relationship. It's not about assigning blame to the past.
No, it's about understanding.
Yes, understanding the origins of our current perceptual field. Where did this way of seeing things come from?
It's like adjusting the focus on a camera. You can choose what to bring sharp into view and what recedes.
That's a great metaphor. Or think about a tree. The roots go deep, right? They provide stability, nourishment. But some roots might hit rocks, get tangled up.
Creates knots.
Exactly. Our family connections are like that. They give us vital support, resources, a sense of belonging, but they can also present challenges, limitations, these inherited tangles. The key insight, I believe, isn't to try and hack away the roots. That's often impossible, maybe not even desirable.
Right.
It's about understanding their influence, seeing how the past informs the present, but without letting it rigidly dictate the future. It's about becoming aware of how that inherited background organizes our current experience, and then actively, consciously engaging in the process of, well, reorganization.
Wow, that really makes you want to look at your own life, doesn't it? Your own patterns and reactions, but with completely new eyes.
Absolutely. And that's where the journey starts, really, with that simple but profound act of looking, bringing a curious, mindful attention to the often hidden background of our own lives.
So, where do we go from here? If we start seeing these patterns, these influences, what does that actually allow us to do?
Well, one fascinating idea is that these limitations, these inherited patterns that might seem negative on the surface, might actually hold hidden potential.
How do you mean? Like a challenge is an opportunity.
Sort of, but maybe deeper. Think about it. A pattern of behavior, maybe hypervigilance or a tendency towards secrecy, might have been a crucial adaptive strategy for survival in a previous generation's circumstances.
Okay, so it served a purpose back then.
Exactly. The task isn't necessarily to just eliminate the pattern, but to understand its original purpose. Why did it arise? And then ask, is it still relevant or helpful now in my current context? Understanding shifts the perspective from eradication to integration, maybe, or transformation.
Let's go back to that family photograph analogy you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
It's like the past isn't static, is it? When you look at that photo again years later, you notice different details, feel different emotions. Your relationship with it changes.
Precisely. Our memory of the past, and therefore its influence on us, is dynamic. It interacts constantly with our present experience. Each time we engage with our family history, consciously or unconsciously, new details can surface, new connections are made. It mirrors that dynamic interplay between our personal history and our current life.
So, trying to ignore it, deny these family shadows, that probably just makes them stronger, right?
That's often the paradox, yes.
Hmm.
The more we try to push something into the background, deny its existence, the more power it can exert from the shadows. It's not about blaming ancestors, but about recognizing that we are fundamentally connected to the perceptual fields that came before us. Our awareness is shaped by theirs.
And every time we gain an insight, recognize a pattern, We're actively doing something.
Absolutely. Each insight allows for a subtle or sometimes significant reconfiguration of how we organize our experience. It shows that the relationship between figure and ground isn't fixed. It's fluid, it's transformable through awareness. We are actively creating our understanding.
You mentioned the family field. Can you unpack that a bit? It sounds like more than just individual histories lined up.
Yes, think of it as a dynamic landscape of relationships, emotions, and patterns that extends across generations. It's not just a collection of individuals, it's a system, a field. And within this field, elements constantly organize themselves into figure and ground, influenced by these often invisible historical forces.
So the unfinished business we talked about,
Yeah,
that creates distortions in this field.
exactly. Unresolved conflicts, traumas, secrets. They act like disturbances, almost like gravitational waves rippling through the field, subtly warping our perception and experience in the present.
Can you give an example?
Sure, think of someone like Elena, who struggles intensely with chronic indecisiveness. Nothing seems overtly traumatic in her own life, but perhaps digging deeper reveals her great-grandmother was forced into a marriage against her will, losing all agency in a pivotal life choice. That unfinished business of suppressed choice and agency might ripple through the family field, manifesting generations later as Elena's seemingly inexplicable difficulty in making decisions. The distortion persists.
That leads to ideas like isomorphism or echo patterns, doesn't it? Where the structure of a problem seems to repeat across generations.
Precisely. You see these structural similarities. An emotional dynamic, or a way of relating, or a specific behavioral pattern seems to bounce through time, maintaining its core shape even as the specific context changes. It's like an echo adapting to the landscape it travels through.
And this connects to the Gestalt idea of wholeness, right?
Yeah.
The drive towards completion.
Yes. The family system, like any system in Gestalt terms, strives towards a sense of wholeness or completion. When parts of the family story or experience are obscured, denied, or incomplete, the system itself might unconsciously drive towards resolution or acknowledgement through various means, often through symptoms or repeated patterns in later generations.
So our attention plays a key role here, what we focus on.
Critically, those background elements, the hidden stories and patterns, they aren't passive. They actively influence our foreground experience. Insight, those aha moments, often involve a shift in attention. Suddenly, something that was background noise becomes the clear figure. You see the connection.
And closure, is it always about neatly tying things up?
Well, the mind does seek completion. And yes, sometimes subsequent generations might unconsciously try to finish their parents' or grandparents' unfinished business. But true closure in this context can also mean acknowledging what happened, understanding its impact, even if the original situation can't be changed or perfectly resolved. Sometimes closure is simply clear seeing and acceptance.
Families also develop their own ways of coping, right? Like creative adjustments.
Absolutely. Over time, families develop characteristic ways of adapting to their circumstances, their challenges, their environment. These patterns of adaptation, ways of communicating, solving problems, managing emotions, become part of the family legacy, passed down as part of their operating system.
What about really big events? Traumas. You sometimes hear them called ghost stories in the family field.
Yes, significant, often traumatic events that haven't been fully processed or integrated can linger. Their presence continues to exert influence, sometimes like emotional black holes in the family field, pulling energy and attention, distorting the dynamics around them.
And you've emphasized it's less about the specific content, the exact story, and more about the process.
That's often where the deeper influence lies. Less about what happened and more about how that event shaped the family's way of organizing experience, their boundaries, their communication patterns, their relationship to fear or trust. The process patterns are often more persistent than the specific narrative detail.
This relates to contact too, doesn't it? How families interact with each other and the world.
Yes, very much so. In Gestalt, contact is fundamental, how we meet the other, how boundaries are negotiated. Historical boundary violations within a family abuse, enmeshment, abandonment, or distorted ways of making contact can create disturbances that get passed down, shaping how future generations engage with intimacy, autonomy, and the world outside the family.
It almost makes time feel less linear, like the past is still happening now.
In a way, yes. We can think of family experience as a kind of fluid time-space continuum. Past events don't just disappear, they continue to resonate and shape the present field. And even future possibilities are influenced by these historical currents. Think of Sophia, who inherits a very specific leadership style, maybe overly cautious and protective. It might make less sense now, but it's rooted in a past generation's need to protect the family during a period of real danger. The style persists.
So families develop these unique self-regulation strategies.
Exactly. Characteristic ways of managing stress, conflict, change. It forms a kind of family-specific operating system that runs in the background, influencing how the family and its individual members function.
Okay, this is heavy stuff. But is there an upside beyond just understanding? Can these inherited patterns be useful?
Absolutely. Here's an unexpected insight. These inherited patterns, even the difficult ones, can be seen as raw material. Raw material for creativity, for conscious evolution. Instead of just unconsciously reproducing ancestral patterns, we can learn to work with this material, transform it, create something new from it.
So it's about integration, bringing awareness to it all.
Yes, integration involves bringing conscious awareness to these inheritances, acknowledging their presence and influence, and then choosing how to incorporate them into a larger sense of self. It's often not a one-time fix, but more like a spiral pattern, revisiting themes at deeper levels of understanding as we grow.
And these family fields, they don't exist in isolation, right? They interact with bigger cultural fields.
Definitely. Family fields are embedded within larger cultural, societal, and historical fields. These larger fields also have their own patterns, traumas, and legacies. Where these fields intersect, say, a family's migration story meeting a national history of immigration, you can get these nodal points where patterns become particularly strong or complex.
But crucially, it's about potential, not destiny.
Absolutely crucial. Inheritance provides patterns, tendencies, predispositions, starting points. It doesn't lock us into a predetermined fate. Awareness creates the space for conscious choice and evolution.
It also implies we're not just isolated individuals, we're part of something much larger.
Yes, we're nodes in a vast network of relationships extending through time. Recognizing this doesn't diminish individuality. I think it actually enhances it by placing it within a richer, deeper context. We participate in these larger fields of awareness.
Which means every choice we make, every insight we have, actually contributes back to the field.
Precisely. We are both products and producers of the family field. Every conscious choice, every act of understanding or transformation ripples back through the system, subtly altering the landscape for ourselves and potentially for future generations. It leads to a lived experience of creative participation across time.
There's another paradox here, isn't there? About trying to escape these patterns.
Yes, the harder we try to consciously resist or run away from an ancestral pattern without understanding it, often the stronger its unconscious hold becomes. We get tangled in the resistance itself.
So what's the alternative? Creative indifference.
That's a powerful Gestalt concept. It means acknowledging the pattern, seeing it clearly, but without judgment, without the intense emotional charge of needing to fix it or fight it immediately, just seeing it for what it is. That neutral, observant space is often where true transformation becomes possible.
Maybe these limitations, these patterns, are actually invitations.
I love that framing. Invitations to participate in a larger unfolding of consciousness across generations. Perhaps families carry, in a way, experiential fractals, core patterns that repeat and evolve, inviting each generation to engage with them anew.
And those inexplicable feelings of connection or déjà vu related to family stories. Ancestral resonance.
It could be seen that way, yes. Manifestations of these deep field connections challenging our conventional bounded notions of self and memory.
This really pushes into philosophical territory, doesn't it? Redefining the self.
It does edge towards process philosophy, perhaps, seeing the self not as a fixed entity, but as a dynamic process, a node constantly becoming within this vast network of relationships and influences.
So the choice isn't whether we're influenced, but how we engage with the influence.
Exactly. Do we unconsciously reflect the patterns? Do we consciously refract them, bending them in new directions? Or do we absorb them, integrate them, and transform them into something new? The choice lies in the how of our engagement.
There was a real tension then between honoring the past and creating the future.
A creative tension, yes, like a river needing both its banks, stability, connection to the source, and its flow, movement, change, to be healthy. Maintaining that dynamic balance is key.
You even hinted at something like retroactive influence. Can our present awareness actually change the impact of the past?
It's a mind-bending idea, bordering on speculative, perhaps drawing parallels with quantum concepts, But from a field perspective, if the past continues to exist in the present field, then transforming our relationship to it now through awareness and integration could potentially alter its ongoing effect, its charge within the field, influencing both present and future. It's less about changing historical events and more about changing their energetic imprint within the present field.
Which places a real responsibility on conscious awareness.
It does. Every insight, every act of integration potentially ripples through the entire family field across time. We become active shapers of our legacy, not just passive recipients.
Is it about getting rid of the bad stuff, like field clearing?
Perhaps clearing isn't the best word. It's more like alchemy transforming base materials into gold. It's about integrating unwanted or difficult patterns through awareness, understanding their function, and finding their potential wisdom or energy rather than trying to surgically remove them, which often isn't possible anyway.
So completion isn't a final state, but temporary wholeness.
Exactly. It's an ongoing process of discovery, integration, and creation. Each cycle of insight and integration leads to a new level of wholeness, which then opens up new territories for exploration. It's dynamic.
So it's not about finding a final resolution, but about cultivating an ongoing, evolving relationship with our inheritance.
Beautifully put. A living relationship, a dynamic composition that we are constantly co-creating.
This really dissolves the idea of strict linear time, doesn't it?
It certainly invites a more fluid sense of temporality, where past, present, and future are deeply interwoven, constantly informing each other within the field. All moments exist in relationship.
Let's circle back to the tree image one last time. The roots connect us to the past, the nourishment, the tangles.
And the branches reach towards the future, representing the potential for conscious growth and evolution.
And the space between the branches, the light coming through.
Ah, yes. Perhaps that represents the infinite possibility that opens up through awareness, the space where new choices can be made, where patterns can be transformed, the space for creative participation.
This opens up so many more questions, though. What about collective trauma? Cultural memory? How does this apply to the big challenges we face today?
Absolutely. Those are vital areas for further exploration, applying this lens to larger systems. How do these field dynamics play out at societal or even global levels?
So the final thought for our listeners.
Maybe just to listen. Listen for the whispers from the past, the echoes in your own life. Don't necessarily judge them or run from them immediately. See them perhaps as invitations. Invitations to engage, to understand, and ultimately to transform. The choice of response always rests with you.